Hello everyone and welcome back to Video Editing 1 with Professor Harris. Today we're going through the MC110 Lesson 8, Working with High Resolution Images. At some point while working on your project, you'll want to adjust a clip's framing or simulate a camera's pan and zoom movements. In this lesson, you'll learn how to do both when working with high resolution images. Today we're going to be working with the MC110 Effects project, and while we load, let's look at some of the goals for this lesson. So our goals for this lesson include understand the source settings dialog box, explore the frame flex feature, and create pan and zoom effects. Let's get into it. Okay, let's start this lesson by inputting high resolution video and images. Working with high res resources starts with input. This controls the image and video's quality inside Media Composer. For this scenario, you'll use the link camera native media and possibly transcode it to Avid native media later. But we did this back in lesson 2, so let's run through those steps again. To input high-res image or video, first I'm going to switch to my edit workspace out of my audio workspace that we were in from the last lesson. I'm going to make a new bin, and we're going to title this high-res. We'll leave it at that. And then with our high-res bin open, we're going to right-click inside. We'll do input and then source browser. Now with the source browser, I already have on my desktop navigated to some images that I'd like to link to, making sure that my link option is selected. Then we'll make sure we have our correct target bin, destination bin, and I'll hit link. And we can see all those images now appear here in my bin. I grabbed a bunch of video game images I thought would be good for zooming and panning. So shout out to you if you recognize any of the games that those images are from. All right, the default duration for linked images or stills is 30 seconds, so this will be 30 seconds of just still time right here in our timeline. By linking the camera native files, we gain access to the original raster dimensions and camera metadata. So if you need to free up your camera card or improve media performance, you'll consider transcoding the linked clips. So since Consolidate creates a direct copy while transcode can create a lower resolution media, let's quickly review how to transcode. So we're going to transcode these because it'll save more space than directly copying it essentially with the consolidate option. So if we're going to transcode a clip, we're going to select the clip. I'm going to figure out which one I'm going to use. I'm going to use this. No, I'm going to use this image because I'm assuming I'm probably not going to use this, although this is my favorite Call of Duty game. So first we're going to, select the clip, and then we're going to right click it and choose consolidate/transcode. That's right here. And then once we have our consolidate transcode dialog box open, we're going to activate the transcode option right here in the top left. And then in the select transcode only linked media, we're going to select that as well. Cool. And then in the convert video section, which is here, we're going to select the following. So first we're going to do source dimensions from the raster dimensions to menu. So we'll click this and we'll hit source dimensions. And then second option, we're going to the keep sources frame rate button. We don't have a frame rate for this. And then a target video resolution such as DNxHQ. We'll leave it. We'll select. We'll do HRHQ. Well, we'll do HRSQ. Okay. And then we'll select the target drive for where this is going to go. So where is this transcoded media going to end up? It doesn't seem like we have a target drive selection here. Interesting. Then all we have to do, well, no, it's not giving us target audio warp format. Interesting. Oh, I didn't select. Okay, you do have to select target drives on the left. I was blanking out. I thought it was going to be in the bottom. No, it's on the left. All right, and then now we have our target drive selected. So all I have to do is hit transcode. Now it's going to transcode this into Avid native media. So now we have the same shot transcoded to Avid native media, and we're all good there. Awesome. And we would do similar steps if it was a video, but these are all images. I'm just using images for now for simplicity's sake. Awesome. Okay, with the transcoded selection that we saw here, Media Composer converts the file to Avid native media and then retains the original raster dimensions. So you'll also have access to the camera metadata, and you can reframe a shot or create a pan and zoom without reducing the image's quality. So even though we transcoded it and we've converted it to Avid native media, we still have the same quality image, but we're just kind of offloading our SD card if we wanted to delete that media later. So as you can recall, your camera native media dictates whether you choose consolidate or transcode. If you need to refresh your memory on this, we're going to review the copy and converting linked media section. I'm not going to review it here, but you can review it in lesson 2 if you go back to lesson 2. Okay, could you save a step and just import your high-res video and images instead? The answer to that is sort of no. So as we can see on the screen here, we've got my transcoded image, but we transcoded it from the original, and the original has that camera native raster dimensions, which can be very high in this instance. But if we had imported this rather than linked it and then transcoded it, Media Composer converts the media, so this includes the raster dimensions, to the current project's format. That would have been 1080p. So in this case, if I had just imported these images rather than linked them, they would have imported and been adjusted to the Avid native media and match the raster dimensions for the project. Some of these images are like 10,000 pixels large. They're very big pictures, very big images that I've grabbed. So that import would have degraded them by quite a bit. That doesn't mean you'll never import, though. Since this lesson covers image resolution, let's look at when and how to import footage or still images. So you'll most likely import video and still images files if you were going to do this. First, when the video or photos raster dimensions, frame size match a project format already. So if they're already identical, then you could just import them and you wouldn't have to worry about that degradation of your image quality or your video quality. And then the second reason would be when you're building a montage without a pan or zoom, for example, with the TN parkour montage in lesson 4. So if you were just building a montage and you weren't going to do these features, these pans and zooms that we're going to do here eventually, and you didn't need to worry about the degradation when you were zooming in, then you could just import those images. If your still images or footage match your project's format, you'll use the default settings in the Import Settings Image tab. If they don't, you'll make a change to match the settings to your source footage. To do this in the source browser, we can click the gear icon. Before we do that, let's open a sequence. I'm going to open my San Francisco sequence here, and I'm going to make a duplicate of it so I don't mess this up. But now we have a copy, and we'll name this one I don't know, do pan slash zoom. Cool. All right, now we have our pan slash zoom sequence open. We'll go back to our high res and we'll right click, we'll do input, and then we'll access the source browser that way. All right, now that we're in the source browser, we can click the gear icon next to the import option. So we'll click the gear icon here. Oh, we got to make sure we're on set to import. So I'm going to click import, and then I'm going to click the gear option. And then in the Image tab's Image Size Adjustment section, we can select one of the following, and that's up here. And I'm going to run through each one of these now. So first we have Image Sized for Current Format. If your source media's raster size matches the current project format, for example, if we were importing an image that was 1920 by 1080 into our project that's already 1080p at 23.976, that would work. That would work just fine because they're the same. We got that 1080p and that 1080. All right, and then next we have crop/pad for DV scanline differences or difference. If you're importing like 720 by 480 footage into a standard definition 720 by 486 project, which is rare these days, that's an option. Next we have do not resize smaller images. So if you're importing an image, a logo, or animated graphic that's smaller than your project's raster dimensions, this is what you would select. And then we have resize image to fit format raster. If you're importing footage or still image that doesn't match the project's format, for example, if you're importing an image that's 4662 by 3108, or a photo, into a 1080p project, then this would be what you would select. So those are those options there. For this project, this is actually exactly what we would want to use. So we do resize image to fit format raster. But again, that would be if we were trying to import and degrade that footage if we didn't care about adding pans or zooms. So as you can see on my screen here, if we import this image with the resize image to fit format raster setting selected, Media Composer automatically adds a pillar box to the image or letterbox to pad the image and avoid distortion. So if I hit OK, and then I select an image and then I hit import, we're going to see it load, and then we've got that new Shadow of War. Let's double click this, and that's our imported image. You can also access the import settings by going to File, Settings, User tabs. That's another way that we could be accessing these settings and making those adjustments upon import. All right, now that you know how to input high-res video and still images properly, let's look at how to manipulate them. Quick note, if you're putting all your images into the same bin, you're going to want to be organized with that. So I renamed this one to imported because this image has now been imported and resized to fit that 1920 by 1080 size. But originally, again, it was like 10,000 pixels. And I also had this image that I did transcode. This still has the same raster dimensions, but as this one, but it is Avid native media now. As we can see, it's not linked. This one is linked. Cool. All right, let's move on. Working with source settings. So once you input your high-res footage or photos, you can make framing adjustments to clips in the bin or segments in the timeline. And you can adjust the color space and bit depth plus available camera metadata. This is key to managing quality and creative control in post-production. Why? Because each camera manufacturer develops unique recording formats. For example, RAW and log-based digital cinema cameras. These evolving formats combine coded luminescence values, resolution, color bit depth, and color space. Therefore, Media Composer needs to provide additional control over image resolution, color bit depth, and color space. What did that all mean? It just means Avid they're adapting Avid, they're making it smarter, and they're making it work with more and more formats as more customized formats from different cameras release. Okay, but that's good news. There's good news here. You can review and adjust available controls in one place, and that's all in the source settings. So no matter what we're looking at, we can always adjust it in our source settings. So if we're going to access our source settings, first we're going to select one or more linked clips in our bin. So let's select, let's see, we've messed with this image and this image. Let's mess with these two images now. So let's just select, we'll just do one. We'll select this image for now. All right, so we select one of our image. We're going to right click the selected clip and then choose source settings. Source settings is at the very top. And then once we're in the source settings, you can see there's all kinds of stuff going on here. Media Composer detects the camera native properties and includes them in the source settings. So the image in the book is far more complicated as far as the image. It's got a bunch of sliders and things like that. I grabbed this image off the internet. I did not take this picture myself, so it doesn't have a bunch of color transformation options. But let me show you what that would look like if I did have something that was camera native. Here is that image that Avid makes reference to in the book. We can see we've got all kinds of different sliders and adjustments that we can make with our linked plugin in our linked plugin tab. So all kinds of cool stuff. All right. So the source settings dialog box includes up to 3 image-based tabs. So let's work through those 3 tabs now. We have the linked plugin tab. I don't have that one. It's not available here on mine because, again, this isn't from another camera, or this isn't from a camera. This displays available camera metadata that you can review and adjust. This tab only appears if the clip's source file includes camera metadata. For example, the red 5K format shown in the that was shown in the image I had pulled up. So again, I don't have that because this isn't linked camera native media. So next we have color encoding, which we're selected on now. This contains options for managing the color conversion from high-res camera native color space to Media Composer HD broadcast standard of REC.709. So There's that. Then we have frame flex. Let me tab over to frame flex. Frame flex includes options for reformatting high-resolution clips to fit within a smaller project raster or frame size. To change high-res clips framing, you'll adjust options in the Frame Flex tab. Let's take a closer look at it, since this is what the lesson is all about. This is the main topic of the lesson. So frame flex, frame flex, frame flex. That's where we're at now. Okay, so let's understand the different areas of the frame flex window. Number one, this is this region here. We have the source viewer. This shows the original image with an adjustable frame box that outlines the entire image or a portion of the image that will display once we make changes. Next, number two, we have this area, this region, our little settings area. In our settings area, specifically called the framing parameters, this contains information about the clip's current framing and corrective parameters to change how the image displays in the source viewer. So we have raster dimension. This is the image's actual frame size. Next, we have image size. This is an option that can override the clip's raster dimensions and indicates whether the clip was transcoded to a proxy resolution. For example, from 4K to full raster HD at 1920 by 1080. So that's where that is. Next, we have image aspect ratio, an option that lets us change the image's aspect ratio. And then we have pixel aspect ratio, an option that changes the image's size to match the selected pixel size. All right, and then the third area that we have, which is this window here, that is our lower viewer. This displays the framed area as it will appear in the source monitor or sequence. So this is what it looks like when we start. This is what the output's going to look like when we're finished. Number 4, we have our frame flex options. That's here, this region here. In our frame flex options, this contains parameters that we can use to adjust or to change the clip's framing. So we have frame aspect ratio. This changes the framing box to match the selection. We have X and Y. This repositions the framing box along the X, which is horizontal, and the Y, which is vertical axis. Next, we have size. This resizes the frame box proportionally. And then we have the Z rotation. This rotates the framing box. Next, we have size matches project raster. This sets the framing box to the same size as the project dimensions. And then we have color. This sets the framing box's color. And then we have reset. This resets the clip's framing to its original size. Like other dialog boxes that we've used before, you'll adjust parameters and then click OK. Here are some tips to help you do this quickly while maintaining good quality. So to keep the raster dimensions value in mind, definitely keep that in mind as you make adjustments. You want to keep in mind the raster dimensions value. So what did we start with? What is our end goal? See, we have a 1920 by 1080 project. What is our end goal? Our image size currently is 3840 by 2160. So how are we going to use that to our advantage going forward? Next, to avoid reducing the clip's quality, we can use the size matches project raster for quality control. For example, when checked, the size parameter changes to 50 for a 3840 by 2160 image in a 1920 by 1080 project. So this lowers the size parameter further. For example, to 30 can reduce the shot's quality. So we're going to want to maintain that at 50. Adjusting the frame flex parameters or directly manipulate the framing box to change the clip's framing. So changing the framing parameters to correct the original image if it looks incorrect before making any changes. So if our framing box is all out of whack, we might want to adjust the way that this is looking before we start working with our project. Let's say this was too small or in the wrong place. We might go, okay, we don't want that there. We don't need it here. We're going to want to center it up and make sure that it's set to the right regions and things like that. I wonder if I can reset this. Can I just hit 0 on this? See if 0 will reset everything. Oh, come on. Oh, not that. 0. Size, rotation. Come on. I'm going to guess 100 is going to be, yep. 100 is going to fill the whole thing. Okay. And then last thing is, if you prefer, you can monitor adjustments in the source monitor. Just load the clip into the source monitor before opening the source settings. So we can click apply to review the changes and then OK to accept the changes and close the dialog box. So those are two tips there. To save time, you can make framing adjustments to multiple clips at once. To do this, we could select the multiple clips in the bin, then right-click one and choose Source Settings, make adjustments, and either click Apply to reframe the current image and move to the next one. We could also click Apply to all to apply the framing adjustment to all the selected images at once. Let's say we had a bunch of images that we knew were the same size or the same framing. We could do that. Or we could click the skip to bypass the current image and move on to the next one. Number 3, we could click OK to close the source settings dialog box. So if we hit OK, that would close it, and we'd be ready to go. All right. So we have our apply. If we had multiple, we would have apply to all, or we'd have a skip button here. So we'd have those 3 buttons there, but we only have one image loaded, so we only see the one. At any time while working on a project, you can also make further changes to the clip's source settings. What if you already cut the clip into a sequence, though? What if that's already happened? You can refresh the sequence to include these changes. To do this, we could park the timeline's position indicator over a clip to monitor the update. Then we can right-click the sequence in its bin and then choose refresh sequence, aspect ratio, and then reformatting options. And that will update if we had made adjustments to the images while they were in the bins, but they were also loaded in our sequence already. Okay, the updated framing appears in our record monitor, so those changes, once we update, will be reflected in our final record, our final output. Speaking of sequences, though, Media Composer adds an S adapter icon to any timeline segment that contains a frame flex tab adjustment. So if I hit OK now, and we'll hit OK, we can see we already have other clips in the sequence that we loaded. I don't know if I talked about loading the sequence. I might have, but in the students' lessons sequences, I did talk about this, pan and zoom. If you load this, all of these shots in here are already frame flex adjusted. So we see that little S icon on these shots. Since you can mix clips with various format properties, for example, frame size, frame rate, and color space, in a sequence, Media Composer adds adapter icons to identify property adjustments in the timeline adapter. Property adjustments. So it adds these little icons so we know that the properties have been changed to each shot. And there are 3 main ones that you're going to want to keep your eye out for. S, which we're looking at now, T, and C. I'm going to tell you what each one of those things is now. An Avid Media Composer is probably going to test you on this. I am definitely going to test my students on this. So S is a spatial adapter to identify a segment with a frame flex adjustment. T is a temporal adapter to identify segments with adjustments to match the project's frame rate. That's T. And then C is color adapter to identify segments with source color settings adjustments. So we could have multiple letters on the same clip. For example, we have a TSC that could show up. These are all just S's right now, but yeah. So let's look at how to create an animated pan and zoom effect now. Now that we've got our images, we know what we want to use them for, we know how we want to use them. Let's look at adding those pan effects. All right, the time has come. Creating a pan and zoom effect with frame flex. To create a pan and zoom animation, you'll work with the effects mode. So let's switch over to the effects mode now and make note that I have added that one image. I'm going to work with both this video and this image. I'm going to add a pan and a zoom to both of these. So we know what it looks like when we add it to a video, and we know what it looks like when we add it to an image. Okay, awesome. So to create a pan and zoom animation, once we're in the effects mode, when we edit a high-res clip into the timeline, Media Composer automatically applies that frame flex effect that we can manipulate. And any changes that we make only apply to that one segment. So we don't have to worry about making a frame flex adjustment here and it applying it to all the other segments as well, just this one here in the timeline. The Composer window changes to the following monitors displays. So we have Oh, sorry, I missed a step. We'll click the effect mode button in the timeline palette. So let's do this image first. So we'll click the effect mode here in the timeline palette. Now we can see that frame flex adjustment, that frame flex effect essentially, is here in our effect mode, our effect editor. Next, in the composer window changes to the following monitor displays. So we have the effect preview monitor, which is on the right, which displays a wireframe outline for direct manipulation. We also get the effect analysis monitor, which is on the left, but we're not seeing it now, and I don't know why. Let's see. Okay, after spending some time working with this, I launched and relaunched Avid even, and I'm gonna try this one last time, but it's still not quite working. I figured out why the second window isn't appearing, and it's because I have no idea. So we're just gonna keep going forward with what I've got here. Perhaps I need to be on a 2-monitor display for it to show up, but again, I'm gonna run through this again. The effect preview monitor is supposed to be on the right. This displays the wireframe outline for direct manipulation, and I believe that is this. That is the effect preview monitor. And then the effect analysis monitor, which should be on the left, this displays a preview of the finished effect. That's not showing up here, but that's okay. I'm sure we can continue working just the way it is now. All right, we're going to scrub to the spot where we want the pan or zoom to start and add a keyframe with the apostrophe key. So I'd like my pan and zoom to start at the beginning, so I'm going to drag right here. I'm going to drag to the very beginning, and I'll add that apostrophe. Now I've added a keyframe where I want that pan and or zoom to start. Now, we can make the adjustments by either adjusting the size and or position parameters in the effect editor, or directly resizing and moving the wireframe box in the effect monitor. So I'm going to adjust it here in the monitor. So I'm going to adjust this box, and I'm going to pull it in on this man character. That's Dovahkiin. That's the whatchamacallit, Dragonborn in the Skyrim game. I want it to zoom in this much. I want it to go from this big, and then I want it to frame down that large. And now we'll scrub to the spot where we want the pan and zoom to end. So what I can do is come to the end, and by the end of the shot, I'm going to hit the apostrophe key. So at the beginning, it's going to start full size, and then by the end of the shot, it's going to have zoomed in this far, panned and zoomed in at the same time. Now, we're going to add a keyframe again where we want that other adjustment, and then we'll click the play button under the effect analysis monitor to preview the pan and zoom. Now, again, it's not appearing for me that way, but tell you what, let's switch back to editor workspace and maybe see, is this that? That looks like it might be it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, effect analysis. Okay. I like how it told me I was going to work with in the effects mode. But then it works, okay, in the effect preview. Okay, so now we can see if I scrub through and I let go, is it going to update my source? No, it did not update my source. Oh, shoot. You know what I did wrong? I think Avid has the instructions incorrect here. Here's what I can do. Let me pull this out again. Excuse me, sir. Shoot, I got to restart. Let me undo everything I did earlier. Okay, so now, starting at the beginning, I'm going to add a keyframe here, apostrophe. Now I'm going to move it to the end, and then I'm going to add another keyframe with an apostrophe. And I'm going to make the adjustment here for what I want it to look like. I'll do something along those lines. And then now it should, yep, there we go. Avid has the instructions wrong. It tells you to make the adjustment before you do this. That is incorrect. You're supposed to add a keyframe for where you want it to start, and then you're supposed to go add another keyframe and then make the adjustment. So Avid has the instructions incorrect. Yeah, and then we can click the play button. I'm going to click this play preview button, see if it works. Oh, it is working. Okay. It's a little bit stuttery, but I'm sure this is something we're going to have to kind of give a second to process. Okay, do the parameters in the frame flex effect look familiar? They're the same parameters that we explored in the frame flex tab and source settings dialog box in the frame flex section specifically. So these parameters here, they should look similar to you already. A couple of notes though about all of this. Once again, we should consider checking the match project raster button to see the maximum size parameter change that we can make before lowering the image's quality. So we're going to do match project raster size, and we can see this is the minimum size that we can make before we get to anything less than 1920 by 1080. So we have that box there. Cool. Oh, no, it's not working. Oh, I thought it was working. What did I do? Reset my box? Oh, it just centered it. Weird. Did I hit lock aspect ratio for some reason? Well, I would want the aspect ratio locked. Anyway, you can leave that locked, but then the match project raster, we could select that button if we wanted to. And then the size parameter zooms into the image and crops it. For example, the zoom and the crop image by 25% sets the size parameter to 75%. Okay, easy enough to understand. Let me scrub through. Let me get back to my keyframe here. Let me make sure that this is where it's going where I want it to. Okay. Now when yep. Okay. All right, it's doing what I want. Awesome. Okay, and then what else? What else? Are there any other notes that Avid has here? Not really. Okay, your animation will simulate the camera's pan and zoom movement with one exception. By default, the animation looks mechanical and lacks camera natural ease in and ease out at the start and end. We can fix this. So let's scrub through our timeline now. If I hit play on my timeline, it just kind of zooms. It's very flat. It just goes. It's the shot immediately starts. We start zooming and it zooms, and then once it stops, it cuts to the next shot. So what we can do is we can change the animation behavior between keyframes. So let's do that now. I'm going to hover over my segment here in my timeline. I'm going to hit the effects mode again, button on my timeline. And then to make the pan and zoom effect movement look more natural, we can change the keyframe interpolation, which controls the deceleration and acceleration in and out of the keyframes. So if we want to change that keyframe interpolation, we can resize the effect editor to reveal the keyframe tracks. So if I resize my effects editor to reveal my keyframe tracks here on the right, we can then right-click the keyframe track labeled either frame flex at the top of the effect editor and choose spline. And that's this right here. So all we have to do is right-click here, and then we can change this to spline. Awesome. Now, we can preview the effect in the effect analysis monitor on the left and then review the change. So let's come over here. We can preview it here. Yeah, you see it? Did you see it? Had that nice ease in. So it's gonna start. The animation's gonna start. It's going to slowly speed up, zoom in, and then it's gonna speed up, and then it's gonna slowly, it's gonna slow down when it reaches the end. So slowly in, and then it speeds up, and then it slows down once we reach the end. We have that nice, satisfying sit on it. Awesome. So that looks a lot smoother. That looks a lot less robotic, like an automatic, just quick zoom. Cool. So that's how we would do that. It's super easy. If you need to restore the original keyframe interpolation, we can right-click that frame flex keyframe track again, and then choose linear. So we just set it from linear to spline, and you can change it back to linear if you want. Upcoming lessons will cover working with keyframe tracks in all 4 keyframing interpolation types: shelf, linear, spline, and Bezier. I don't know how to pronounce these things. I just read them. Now that you've explored how to reframe the high-res clips, and create a pan and zoom effects, let's practice this. So definitely get into exercise 8.1, and you can start practicing that. I'm going to quickly do it again to this shot though. So let's start doing that. So this is a video. We can do pretty much everything that we did earlier. So we could come over here into our effect preview monitor. We could add a keyframe with the apostrophe key, and then we could come to the end of the shot. We could add another apostrophe or another keyframe, and then here at the end of the shot, making sure we're hovering over the same keyframe, I could use my little adjusters here, and I could readjust the size of the shot to something else. Let's make it a little less radical. Let me zoom it in here, or pull out a tad. There we go. And now we're gonna slowly pan down and look at the bridge here. So if I run through this now and I hit play, hit it here, it has done nothing. Why? Was it just slow? Oh no, it was working. It was working. I should just watch it here probably. Yep, okay, yeah, it's working. Now it looks like a time-lapse video, and it's got that nice slow zoom in. And that's not bad at all. and we could right click in here, and it's currently set to spline, but we could set it to linear or shelf. But I think spline right now looks nice and clean. Nice slow zoom in, and boom, we're done. That's all there is to it. Super easy stuff. So yeah. All right, let's play this from the top now. Music's horrible and I hate it, but at least we've accomplished it. Okay, that's really it for this lesson. Strangely enough, that went by very quickly for me, at least. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to my students. I will see you in class. Don't forget to be getting into Avid and working on these. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.